We're in the midst of a huge transformation where peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I am very excited to welcome our next guest on to the interview series, Paloma Thombley. She is the Vice President of People at Handshake. Paloma, it's so good to see you. If you want to share a little bit about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns and when you were younger, do you remember how exactly you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, thank you so much, Christina. I'm really excited to be a part of this. Like you said, my name is Paloma Thombley. I'm the VP of People at Handshake. My pronouns are she, her. When I was younger, I think I wanted to be a lawyer, but I don't think I knew exactly what a lawyer was. I think my probably very exasperated mother, told me that because I love to argue, that maybe should be the job I choose. And so that's what I thought I wanted to be for a long time.
I love it. I was a mock trial kid, so I definitely relate to that as well. Fast forward to today, you're the Vice President of People at Handshake. It's in the title of our interview series. How are you thinking about measuring both in a qualitative and quantitative way this dynamic thing of company culture?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. So I currently manage our people team, and the talent team reports to me as well, and I report directly to our CEO, Garrett. When I joined Handshake initially, we were about 160 employees, and now we're 675 employees. There were two people beside myself working in HR. The people team is now 15 plus, with plans to continue growing, and we're also a global company with employees in the US, in Canada, in the UK, and in Germany. And so I think the way that we have measured company culture has really evolved along with that growth as well. I think we look at a variety of data sources. So some of those data sources are lagging. So for example, if you're just looking at attrition rates, it's a really good signal of how engaged your population is and how they're feeling about the company, but you're obviously not able to act on it in real time. You're more responding to things that have already happened. Our main measurement tool, where we try to be a bit more proactive or in real time, is feedback from employees. And so we're focused on in that information from employees, both qualitative and quantitative data. We really want to make sure that employees have sufficient avenues and mechanisms for them to raise voices, workplace concerns, any issues that they have to us. So we have a few different mediums for that. Qualitatively, we really aim to make sure that people feel safe, they feel comfortable raising concerns. This is a question that we ask regularly in our surveys to see how people feel about raising an issue to the people team, if they feel their issues will be acted upon, that sort of thing. I really believe that one person who has a really good experience raising a concern and having it resolved and addressed in a really satisfactory manner, that person has the power to share that experience with others. And conversely, if they have a bad experience, it will certainly be shared with others. And we're trying to create a really positive loop there for employees to report concerns and really feel like we're open to hearing them, because we very much are. We want to make sure that the workplace continues to improve. Quantitatively, we've also set expectations for my team around how long it'll take to respond to an issue that's raised to us. We may not be able to fix everything or address every concern that every employee has, but we do want to make sure that people feel like their voices are heard.
Absolutely. You want to make sure that people feel psychologically safe to share their experience and also feel like they are seen, heard, and understood. You mentioned a lot of growth on the team, which is really exciting to see and also to be a part of too. How are you scaling your company culture in that really intentional way, especially as I believe you said 675 folks, and I'm sure you're continuing to grow after that as well.
Yeah. So with our growth occurring at such a rapid pace, so for context, we started 2021 with around 250 employees. So we've really grown quite a lot over the last 18 months. I and my team are really focused on what's best for the company at these different stages of growth. So what works really well for 100 employees that are all maybe based in one location might not work for 150 or 300 or 600 plus employees that are across many different time zones, that are in different countries and have different cultural expectations of what a workplace is like and what company culture should be like. So I think for us, we really want to balance what are the core pieces of Handshake's culture that really make Handshake unique and should be preserved no matter how big we get, with what needs to evolve in order to best support the business and the people within it. So remaining flexible, but finding those things where it's like, these are our foundational components that we think are like, we will preserve at all costs. I think from a culture perspective, we really pride ourselves on being proactive to potential problems. So for example, like processes that may not scale effectively once you get to a certain headcount size, and also evolving to meet the needs of our employees at any given time. I think a good example of this is what employees that were joining a Series B startup of 100 people were looking for and expecting is very different from what the people that are joining the company now are expecting, given that we're later stage and more mature. And so really establishing what's nice to have versus a must have, and like tracking when those benefits shift from being nice to haves to must haves or vice versa. And I think the last piece here, and kind of ties back to the previous question, is we really want to make sure we're getting feedback from employees like as much as possible on what we're doing and how we're ensuring that our company culture really comes through in programs like onboarding and other like major employee lifecycle moments, so we can constantly improve it and evolve to meet our next new hire cohort's needs, or our next intern class needs, or the next experience of people who are going through promotion or compensation cycles, things like that.
Absolutely. What are the key pillars? What is the North Star, and what needs to continually evolve and change as you continue to grow and add more folks to the team as well? One of the kind of words you mentioned is what's unique about the organization, and we have some data around people are looking for organizations that provide that unique value proposition, employer brand. In one study, just 31% of employees say their company offers something that is really unique and different. Not only 23% of HR leaders really expect employees to stay with the firm after the pandemic ends, whenever that is. So how would you answer what is unique about Handshake?
Yeah, so I think this kind of goes back to what are those foundational pieces that we think are really critical and part of our culture. One of our values is learn, grow, repeat. And one of the ways that Handshake really aims to retain employees and keep them engaged is focusing on internal growth and development. This is so connected to the mission of the company as well. But we're really big on the idea of transferable skills. So really recognizing behaviors, attributes, competencies that are going to translate across maybe a few different job families or career paths, especially for employees who join us early in their career, who are maybe joining, they need to get a job because they need to have a paycheck and they need to start somewhere, but their longer term goal is actually to go into a different direction. And so what we've been doing is we've been working on programs that actually better map career paths within and across our internal teams. So for example, earlier this year, we actually mapped out competencies with our account management and customer success teams to show which skills map to which roles and which levels, and how those roles develop and set career paths to really make sure people see, hey, this is how I can progress in my career. Even if I don't necessarily stay like a CSM, here are some ways where like the things I'm doing or learning are going to translate to account management or sales or people management as like kind of a separate piece of the pie. And we rolled that out earlier this year. We actually just ran our most recent pulse survey, and we saw a really significant increase, like 20 points with these population groups around questions related to growing your career at Handshake and feeling like this is a place to that they want to be for a while, things like that, which is really gratifying to see since it was kind of a pilot, and we're excited to continue to expand that. I think aside from that, we do have some benefits that make us unique as well. So we're really focused on making sure our paid family leave programs, our parental leave programs are really supportive of all of our employees in wherever they're at in their family forming journey. So we do have like a set amount of leave that we provide people, but we also partner with a great company called Parentally, which provides coaching to help new parents plan for when they're going out on leave. And also, I think more critically, help plan for their return to work, which is kind of a jarring experience for a lot of people, especially first-time parents. We continue to offer flexible work. We're remote friendly with employees that are across the US and certain hub locations that we're really prioritizing hiring into to make sure that we're building communities where people can make in-person connections. We offer volunteer time off. A cool thing that we rolled out this year is holiday time off. We were very aware that not everyone celebrates the same holidays that are kind of tracked on the federal calendar. And we really want to make sure that people can feel like they can take the time away from work and not think of it as like a vacation day where they're kind of working or something like that, and dedicate it as a true holiday. And so everyone gets 2 of those days per year that they can allocate, for the holiday that makes sense for their culture, for their religious beliefs, for things that are important to them. And then the last thing I'll say on things that make us unique, we really want to make sure that people have dedicated time to decompress from work and like recharge. And so we offer 2 weeks during the year, 1 week in July and 1 week in December, where everyone, the vast majority of the company is actually completely off. It's called we just finished the one in July. It was called our Shake Break. And we have some folks that are still on across support and customer facing teams to make sure our customers' needs are met and they're able to take the time on a bit more staggered schedule. But that's been something that's been really helpful for people, because the idea that everyone's not working means you really don't have to check your email during that time off.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about someone else is slacking you or if you're being a blocker for anyone as well. The gift of time also is so important for mental health. I love the benefits examples you gave and that career mapping as well. There's a ton of research that shares when you feel like the company and your leaders are really invested in you, then the end result is just better for everyone. I know when we were talking about earlier, it's really important that a handshake and leaders really walk the walk, talk the talk. Really want to, I know you just gave some really great examples and specifically related to the people team as well. Can you share an example of how your mission really manifests across Handshake?
Yeah, so our mission is to democratize access to opportunity for students everywhere. So Handshake is the best place to start, restart, or jumpstart your career with no connections, experience, or luck required. This mission resonates so deeply with the employees of our company. Many made the decision to join us over many other companies because they feel so personally connected or moved by the mission, and like alignment to the goals that we're setting out. We really try to make sure that mission comes back into the company frequently. So at all hands, we'll have students come and talk about their experiences on Handshake and how it's helped them to find internships that they wouldn't maybe have normally found because of the schools that they're at, or not really knowing how to navigate kind of the process of finding internships or first jobs at a college. But I think, every part of the company, this really resonates. For example, our technical teams, they're so excited about physically, like they're building a product that students are going to be using regularly that is going to directly impact their career trajectory. And there's plenty of studies where it's like that first job out of college really does matter for like your long-term career potential, your ability to generate wealth for yourself, all of those things. So helping people to jumpstart their career, I think is really important. We really try to make sure that what we're doing internally for employees matches that mission. I think that investment in learning development that I mentioned earlier is a big piece of this, as well as creating those pathways internally for employees to grow into different roles, like I mentioned earlier. So we offer certain benefits related to L&D that are really intended to help people further their career growth in a way that's like really personal and specific to them. But we also have programs that we've rolled out over the last couple of years, an apprenticeship program and a sponsorship program, which are really intended to help develop and support team members who may be new to tech or maybe are from underrepresented groups in tech and may lack the networks that other people do, maybe coming from like specific colleges or specific like work experiences.
I love that. I think it is so important to open up the opportunities and really share that information out as well and be really intentional about personalizing the employee experience. Everyone's career goals are different as well and really personal to them. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you invest in the learning and development and really professional growth of the team members at Handshake?
Yeah, absolutely. So we provide monetary support via learning and development stipend. So employees can spend up to $2,000 a year on their own personal career development and educational endeavors. So that can be going to a conference, that could be taking additional courses, that could be trainings, that could be having a coach in a specific arena. We really want to make sure that it's aligned to the specific needs of each individual person and like them partnering with their manager around what do they need to continue their growth in the chosen career path that they may have. On top of the stipend, we really try and make sure people like understand how to think about career growth and career development in the right ways. And so I host a quarterly lunch and learn about career development that's really meant to encourage employees to be proactive in driving their own career development, but also give them the resources and tools to figure out how to do that. Understanding the resources that we provide at Handshake, and also things that they should be aware of even when eventually, like maybe they're not at Handshake anymore, things they should keep in mind in general as they're moving through the workforce. And then we also offer management training. So for people that are moving from IC tracks to management tracks, we work with a company called Strive, and it's really geared towards not just current managers, so helping them continue to develop their skills, which is obviously quite important, but we really try and identify people who we believe are going to be moving into management within like a 12-month time frame, and allow them to go through these trainings as well. So they're building those really foundational skills to be an effective people manager before they're thrown into the deep end, so to speak, and really are having to do it live. And that's been really impactful for people, just feeling more comfortable and more equipped to grow in this new direction of their career.
Yeah, I always say, and someone else said this too, and it really resonated with me, there are no born managers or people leaders. They are really developed, and kind of managing people you really want to be equipped with. But that is also a completely different job than being an individual contributor. And it sounds like there are a lot of resources to really invest in your professional growth and really those transferable skills, as you were talking about too. I want to kind of talk about that psychological safety a little bit as well. When we were talking about company culture, what are the ways in which you're really cultivating that psychological safety at Handshake so folks feel like they can bring their kind of X% selves to work?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to allow people to just be able to do their best work, right? I think these things are just intrinsically connected. Some ways that we try to cultivate at Handshake. So we really try to establish trust with our employees through our actions, through creating good experiences that set the expectation that they're going to be heard, needs will be met, we're approachable, there's not like any sort of fear of retaliation or consequence for like raising concerns or issues within the company, making sure that there's kind of creating reinforcement that this is something we want to hear, that there's like a two-way street on this. Like I mentioned earlier, we want to create multiple avenues for feedback. So our pulse survey is one. Our management, our performance cycles are another one. We run a lot of like spot surveys. We also do like one-on-one meetings for more qualitative information from people within the company, but really giving them an outlet to express how they're feeling. Partnering with like our ERGs, we call them Handshake communities, to really be connected to the experiences of specific groups within Handshake that maybe have are seeing things or experiencing things that like we are not, potentially from the people team perspective or the leadership team perspective, or like overall at a company level, to make sure that we're aware of those things so we can act on them accordingly. And I think the last piece is really trying to make sure that we're acknowledging and talking about the hard things. Like certainly over the last 2.5 years, there's been plenty of those, and creating spaces for those conversations and equipping managers to feel comfortable having those conversations, while also making sure employees know how they can use our mental health services, our EAP, time off to support their mental health, things like that, to really make sure that we're supporting them wherever they're at.
Trust is built through actions and a consistent way. I definitely agree with that too, and really making space for those conversations, as you were talking about. How are you leading and encouraging other senior leaders and executives to really model that behavior, to lead and manage with empathy?
Yeah. So like I said, the last 2 years have been incredibly hard on the workplace as a whole. There's been so much unexpected change, so many difficult events going on in the real world outside of work, that it's impossible to separate the personal and professional, I think, in the ways that we maybe could have previous to the pandemic. So in order to encourage and kind of really make sure we're living by our values, we really try to encourage our employees and our managers to be aware and be mindful of things like burnout, of the signs of burnout, have those conversations proactively with their teams. We try and like do check-ins on how people are using their PTO a couple times a year, really flagging for managers if there's people on their teams that haven't used the amount that we would expect them to at this point during the year. We also really try to make sure we're encouraging people to set boundaries. So we've recently rolled out things like our Slack guidelines for new hires, as well as existing employees, that really kind of codifies what we expect around Slack. hey, your working hours may not be someone else's working hours. That's okay. Like, you need to set the boundaries that feel appropriate for you and your work, and also make sure that like you can fit your life in around your work schedule. And like I said earlier, like the time off aspect. I think our leadership has really embraced talking about the hard things going into the world very directly and upfront. So we do monthly leadership AMAs where anybody at the company can ask any member of leadership any questions. And those range from very business specific questions to questions relating to like, what's our stance on the war in Ukraine, for example. What is our stance on like what's been happening with related to some of like the Supreme Court rulings over the last several months, and really like giving an opportunity for senior leadership to voice how we're showing up in this way, and also making it safe to like, hey, we're having these conversations, and that's okay to be doing, because it is naturally going to be affecting some degree of like how we're thinking about work.
Absolutely. It's going to affect how we show up on a day-to-day basis, and really having those conversations, acknowledging what's happening, really actively listening is also important as well. This has come up a variety of times throughout our conversation too, in terms of the pulse surveys that you mentioned, in terms of the one-on-ones and manager training, and really getting feedback in terms of a psychologically safe environment too. What role does the employee voice really play in your people and talent strategy?
Yeah, it plays a huge part in our people talent strategy. From a purely practical perspective, I don't want to spend a lot of time, or my team's time, like building something and rolling it out that's not going to be impactful to our employees. So we're really reliant on the feedback we gain from employees to implement change at Handshake. So for example, we're really open to feedback from employees on what's worked well for them at past companies, like really like, hey, what can we bring in from other organizations that we think could be really effective here? What has served us well in the past, but maybe it's time to sunset it, going back to like the idea of what do we need to evolve as we continue to grow as an organization. So really making sure that there's avenues for that voice, but also like showing that there's action taken around it. I think a good recent example is we wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to share their voice and share how they were feeling related to the Roe v. Wade being overturned in June, which was like a very significant moment for a lot of people in our organization. And so the people team put on or kind of organized an opportunity for people who wanted to share and express their feelings and like, add their voice to their colleagues, creating an opportunity to have conversations in small groups and then across like the broader group of anyone who wanted to attend, to create forums for feedback and discussion, and like allowing us to hear how employees are feeling, and also like hear the questions and the desires that they may have around like what Handshake can do next as we move forward from like the ramifications of that decision.
Yeah, I think that also makes sense in terms of spending a lot of time building out a process or policy or initiative, and it's not something that people want or need to use as well, and really having that collaborative conversation too, in terms of meeting folks where they are, and again going back to listening too. Over the past few years, as you mentioned, a lot has been going on, and business as usual has been out the window. A ripe time for creativity and innovation. Is there anything that you would like to highlight as well that you've innovated in the employee experience in the past, let's say, year?
Yeah. So I think a couple things come to mind. I mentioned earlier, we have the 2 weeks off that we do during the year. We rolled those out over the last year or so, and they've been really well received. I think one other thing I would call out here is we recently revamped our employee onboarding program back in March. And we really did that based on feedback from the organization, looking at data from onboarding surveys, and looking at, hey, what will serve our employees best now that we're, a distributed company? We're onboarding groups of people in like kind of a higher volume than we had previously. What do we really want them to take away from their first week at Handshake? What do we want to make sure that like comes through really clearly? What are the gaps that they're saying they're not picking up? And so we built out a program called Handshake Launch, which actually goes over the first full week of someone's tenure at Handshake. And it covers deep dives into the product, specific like lunch meetings with a member of leadership, so they can like to have some FaceTime and ask them some questions, understanding things around some of our people programs, talking to people on the talent side so they understand like referral programs and things like that, but really helping them get all of the right amount of information that they need to be effective and like have the context that's really helpful as they go into their second weeks and continue to onboard at the company. And I've been really excited about how that's gone and also the results of those changes.
Yeah, onboarding is a really critical piece of the employee experience, especially those first 30, 60, 90 days and when you're learning and meeting new folks at the organization as well. Paloma, is there anything that I did not ask throughout our conversation that you would like to share with folks who are listening, or underscoring any kind of key insights you hope people bring with them?
No, I mean, I love this conversation. I think your questions were great. The thing that I would maybe say is I fundamentally believe that company culture is not just driven at the top by the values that we set or the leadership team members. They obviously play a role, but I've seen employees that aren't on the leadership team or within the organization overall really embody the culture that we want to create, and by modeling those behaviors and those actions have really shaped how the organization grows and evolves. And so if you're listening to this and you don't think you have a way to shape the culture of your company, you very much do. And I just want to make sure that that comes through, because it's the unsung heroes, the culture carriers. They're so critical to us being able to build a company that has a strong culture and has a unique culture that feels specific to us and very mission and values aligned.
I think that ownership mentality is so important. And I also think everybody has a responsibility to create a workplace that they really want to be in and thrive in and really be there for one another as well. Paloma, thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture this afternoon.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you for the invitation. I really love the conversation.
Of course, and as a reminder for folks who are listening, at AllVoices, we really believe in employees and employers being seen, heard, and understood, and know it's a requirement for the business to really succeed overall. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.